Fire it up, footballers. Jaymes here from Enemies of the Fire, and I wanted to talk to you about an amazing video I saw from Eric Wynalda on Goals TV on YouTube. It's called Eric Wynalda's 5-point plan to save U.S. soccer, and you could turn off the video right in here and click the link that we have below in our description if you just want to watch the straight on through video, and we'll see you later. Thanks for stopping by. Hit that like button. Definitely hit the like button on Eric's video. But if you want to stay for a reaction and conversation while we react to the first 30 minutes of the video, hang around here and we'll have some fun. And let's let Eric take it away. So Eric, I saw this video and I was struck by it because I've been an Eric Wynalda believer for a long time. And I always thought that he would have made a great president for the U.S. Soccer Federation. And he tells a little about that in this podcast here, as well as his plan to save U.S. soccer, which, in my opinion, there's a lot of good ideas in here, and it's worth a listen. So it's on Goals TV, Eric Wynalda's 5-point plan.
Again, this is Unleashed. I'm Eric Wynalda. Really want to say thank you, first and foremost, for all the people who are tuning in and been fans of the show so far. We've had a lot of fun doing it, and apparently we've hit some nerves, and we've also enlightened some people in regards to what actually happens in the administration of soccer in this country.
All right. And he's going to get into that in a degree that I have never heard anybody else do that before in this very podcast, in this 30 minutes that we're going to be reacting to. He gets into the nitty gritty, naming names, naming actors, naming factions, identifying players that are both holding back the game and those who are trying to push it forward. And it's an amazing podcast, so let's take a listen. And he's definitely been ruffling some feathers, and that's what Eric does. He's always outspoken, he's always honest, and that's one of his great features and great qualities, besides the fact that he was a stellar U.S. men's national team player for years and years.
All right, so I got a bone to pick. I'm just going to get this out of the way, all right? Because it really is, it's real. I do have receipts, so I'm not making this shit up. But it is kind of frustrating to be me right now. For those of you who don't remember, I did have a very unsuccessful plea to be the president of U.S. Soccer, and I lost that to Carlos Cordero.
Connor, I'm in the middle of filming right now, but I'm doing something. Unless you want to join me.
Oh,
it's a live reaction. I'm live reacting to Eric Wynalda's 5-point plan to U.S. soccer. If you don't want to react to that, then pop on out and we'll catch you later. But if you do, comment on, and I'm going to start playing it.
All right.
I had a pretty good start, and then things got a little bit weird. The percentages didn't add up, but I learned a lot in that process. I learned a lot about how soccer happens in this country, and who's in on it and who's on the outside looking in. Who wants to see the soccer get better and who wants to stay right where they are, status quo. I've got this figured out. I'm making a lot of money off of the game. Why in the hell would I change that? I know who you guys are. We've probably met in person, and I'll keep your names out of it as of today. When the book comes out, sorry, not sorry. It'll all be in there, and people will know what a corrupt person you happen to be. So, get your affairs in order before that all happens, and that'll be
Eric, he's so great.
Coming out just before the World Cup. Looking forward to that. I still have it. I have an operating title at the moment. I'm starting to lean towards my view from under the bus. Might be it could be.
How about like U.S. Maverick or Wynalda winning at all costs?
WTF, Wynalda Talks Football. It could be WTFU, Wynalda Talks Football Unleashed. I don't know yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Collecting all the information has...
Wynalda way. Wynalda way. Are you going to try to go in Wynalda way?
Been fun. Now, here's what I need people to know, all right? I'm not just this blowhard that comes onto this show and just wants to tear everything down because I just don't like the way it works.
I never thought of you as that. I never thought of Eric as that. I thought of Eric as a person who wants to build up American soccer, who wants what's best for U.S. men's national team, who wants what's best for the youth and for development and for soccer as a culture in the United States.
There was a lot of work that went into that campaign. There was a lot of really smart people who helped me understand how it works, how we could make it better, did the numbers. I'm not a math guy, but I had people that invented essentially the Champions League. I had high execs on Nike that were on my board. We had people that had done this for a long time and understood exactly where the tripwire was, how we could make it better, and these are the people that were advising me.
That Eric has the people you want involved talking to him about the problems that are inherent within the pay-to-play system in the U.S. soccer culture.
A little secret. I had no intention, zero intention of staying president of U.S. soccer very long. My whole goal and my agenda was to get in, fix everything, and employ the people or encourage the people who really should be doing this work to stay on board. I should have probably shared that with them at the time, but I think they were pretty hungry to get in there, especially that.
I think you should have shared it with them, but I understand your need for secrecy, especially in the high-stakes world that he was playing in and trying to vie for the presidency of the U.S. Soccer Federation.
Guy who I can't tell you what company he worked for, but this guy's job is essentially to figure out how non-for-profits work at a far greater scale than what we did at U.S. Soccer. Do the history on that. I mean, the same people that ran Bill Clinton's foundation ran our foundation. I bet
What?
Scale than what we did at U.S. Soccer. Do the history on that. I mean, the same people that ran Bill Clinton's foundation ran our foundation. I bet you didn't know that.
Wow. That explains a little bit of the hijinks that's been going on with U.S. soccer and how it's been able to be controlled and manipulated by NFL football. I mean,
things start to add up when you say stuff like that. And a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear that there is corruption. And they don't want to hear that they're the people that are really pulling the puppet strings of who does what in this country and why essentially are doing it for the wrong reasons and or they just don't know soccer. All right. The first thing that I need to get off my chest is in my 5 points that I submitted to U.S. Soccer, which was shared with Major League Soccer. The main points were very clear. I was trying to figure out the pay-to-play system, trying to come up with some solutions that were going to make us a better soccer nation, but helping people understand that if you're paying for the academy, you're really not in an academy. That's not how an academy works. All right.
not how it works in Europe.
Solidarity payment, usually when the player who has been developed, who is invested in your child and has put the money into it and the understanding of we're going to develop this player into an asset that at some point will find his or her way into the system. And at that point, there is a fee that is paid to the academy, which is called training compensation. You don't get the training compensation if you've already received it. So just understand that from
They received it from the parents.
point one. Most of the academy systems that exist right now in Major League Soccer, when I first went to them 8.5 years ago, they didn't understand what all this was about. They were still functioning in a very different way. I'm glad that you read my presentation. Thank you for reading the presentation. You're implementing a lot of the things that I felt were necessary at that time to make us a better soccer nation. Outside of what just came out a couple weeks ago, we're no longer keeping score. I don't know if you caught on that. It's all about development. It's about metrics. It's about the kid that made 99 passes, 98 of them backwards, but hey.
This is crazy. This is crazy. That apparently they've gotten rid of the rankings and the way that they scout the youth and the systems for this. He'll explain.
He had an unbelievable success rate passing the ball around. But they're not going to keep score anymore. They're just going to go off performance. Like this is a concert that we, as the crowd, get to decide whether the band sucked or not. And then it just comes down to whether we just liked that band. I make a lot of music analogies.
I mean, there is some truth to that's how some of us do watch soccer. It's like, oh, we like to watch the style of, the old Man United. Oh, the old the old Italian teams, what have you, or Real Madrid, or Messi back when he was in Barcelona, and watching the amazing tiki-taka football. So is something about that type of rock show, but he's talking about in terms of development, which is a different sense. Those are the finalized products. He's talking about before you even get to that point, and there's a whole heap of issues that have been popping up in the American system that have not been resolved.
Technologies in these deals, but I couldn't be more embarrassed for Major League Soccer for making the decision that winning does not matter. You want to marry your.
This is something I've been coming to terms with my fandom for the Chicago Fire and MLS soccer in general. It's that the games don't matter. It really doesn't. And it's funny because if you say that the games don't matter in MLS, then you're basically saying that, oh, the games don't matter in MLB and NBA and NFL because, oh, those leagues don't have promotion relegation. So that means that they're somehow lesser. And I think that that's true, though. I think that those leagues are lesser for not having promotion relegation. And I think that MLS needs to get ahead of this before they get behind it, and they're already behind it.
Yourself to mediocrity and all of the other mechanisms that you've created, that's fine.
Mediocrity, parity, all these mechanisms, and games that don't matter. Games that don't matter in March, games that don't matter in April, May, June, July, August, September. And then eventually you're going up against the NBA, the NHL, the NFL in December and trying to win eyes. It's just like, it's totally backwards. And the funny thing is, he talks about it later, but the fact that MLS basically begins around the Super Bowl, there's a reason for that.
Fine, but don't fuck up our kids, okay? Don't do that. Don't start telling them that winning doesn't matter or putting them in situations where they're playing against an opposition, which is a manufactured game in front of their parents, and then be surprised when they get put into a real professional situation with a crowd. How about that? People actually watching, booing, cheering. Right? They're saying that they're actually going to get on your back if you make a bad pass. And you're surprised that they can't handle that? You thought you handled the technical part, but the mental part of this game is just as important. And all those, if you think that playing for your high school is irrelevant, it's actually not. It's actually a really good way to learn about what it's like to play in front of crowds and noise and be able to figure out how to do your work. Separate subject, and I don't want to get off on a tangent. The second...
But playing in front of crowds is an understandable pressure. Toke, could you imagine doing this show in front of a crowd?
Oh, absolutely.
It'd be awesome.
But I was never one that had issues with like public speaking type of stuff.
I think so, me too.
To an extent. I mean, everybody gets nervous in front of people.
But the idea that a sports player gets nervous in front of a crowd, I'll tell you this, the crowd never affected me as a player, but it does affect some players.
Yeah, I never played at any kind of level where it ever even slightly mattered, right? Like, but it was just people's parents and girlfriends and stuff, right? But like, you know, I feel like this. I feel like when I see a live concert, and we know the kind of music I listen to, the death metal stuff.
Yeah.
When the more hype the crowd is, the better the whole vibe is. Like the band, like they are having more fun. So like people feed off of that.
Oh yeah.
To an extent. Like think of like a guy like across sports. Think of like a Reggie Miller.
Right.
Was like Reggie Miller great? No, but when the lights were on, Reggie Miller was at his best. You know what I mean? When things were brightest, he really, you know, he loved that being the heel or the, you know what I mean?
I feel that in basketball. I mean, it's funny you're talking about basketball. I felt the crowd's effect in basketball more than I felt the crowd's effect. And I played in giant stadiums for big crowds for soccer, and I've played in, for small stadiums for basketball. Basketball was way less, never a crowd as much as there was for a soccer game or for a hockey game. And hockey, definitely the crowd gets you riled into it. That's something. But
well, hold on. Don't discount this either. So you went to a Fire game when we were good, so the place was packed, and hit a PK at halftime. So let's even pretend. Let's just pretend half of the people left during halftime. And you still did that in front of 10,000 people.
I did. I hit a penalty on Sparky in front of 15 to 18,000 people, and grabbed the ball, ran it back to center field, ready for the next one. And, and so I mean there was pressure. I practiced a few times with my bro, who's a soccer coach, and just got ready. And also I've been in those pressure situations to win the game with PKs. So this wasn't nearly as worrisome as those, and that was to win trophies.
Hey, by the way, is your mic recording?
My mic is recording. I made sure.
Did you even address that?
I didn't, but we'll let Eric take it away, because it's been a great little exercise and discussion here as we react to what he's talking about.
Did I miss point one?
You missed point one, which was essentially you have to go back and watch it.
The pay to play was what it was, but it was about the culture, and obviously that part is going in the wrong direction with the decisions that are being made about winning not mattering. I don't know. The last time I checked, we're American, and the last phrase in our anthem is "Home of the Brave." Can we do that? Can we just, if there's a game plan, call it "Home of the Brave" and be brave, and actually engage in situations where we actually are trying to win the game, as opposed to just play it. And then we take our players, we say, we've developed this kid, and they leave and they go to a foreign land where they don't speak the language, and they don't pat you on the back after you've had a bad game. They actually don't look at you. Then they might even say something pretty rude. There is no, hey, go get them next time over there. And that mentality is certainly killing us. Okay, you heard me talk about this ad nauseum, but
talking about just this mentality of weakness inside the American soccer culture, and patting people on the back, giving them all snowflake stars, and then they go over elsewhere to Europe, where there's pressure, where there's promotion, relegation, where jobs are on the line, not just your job, but the ticket man, the stadium, everybody's. And it's just a whole lot of pressure for these guys.
Hold on. I do want to comment. I know that you and I can go at a 5-minute video for an hour, but I'd like to just address one thing that I heard in this argument, which was he wants to care about winning. Okay. What level are we talking about? Because I'm old enough to remember the biggest scourge in American soccer when Jurgen Klinsmann was in charge of U.S. soccer was the fact that these guys at the AYOS, whatever.
AYSO
level. Yeah, whatever. I don't have kids. Anyway, at that level, the biggest scourge to all of soccer was that those guys would only play certain kids doing certain things just to beat up and win, because their job depended on them winning. So it was like, get rid of winning. Who gives a shit? We're here to develop the beautiful game. So that's what I've heard for 20 years now was the solution. And now I want to know what he means. Like, if he means
he's talking
at
more
17,
he's talking more so in the MLS. Yeah, he's talking more so about MLS than
if you're 17 and in the
than
third division.
Yeah,
if you're in the third division in a promotion or a relegation fight at 17, I feel you. But again, when for 20 years I've heard that 10-year-olds shouldn't care about winning, or the coach's job shouldn't be about winning. It should be about developing the skills. Anyway, sorry.
One of the 5 points was for us to change the schedule in Major League Soccer. And promotion and relegation was something that I addressed, but I also understood, again, this is not me trying to force it down their throat, that an explanation was warranted. People need to understand that under these circumstances, if you're buying into a franchise for $500 million, you'd like to know that you're going to be around for a while. You like to know that this is what you're buying into, and I could immediately be eliminated from the big show simply because we couldn't get our business right in year one. I get it.
And getting your business right means if you don't, you're relegated.
There's a bit of unfairness.
I've already laid this out in umpteen million conversations. The 10-year plan. That's the only way to implement it. You can't just implement it like that.
To that. But of all the responses that I've seen when I talk about promotion relegation and or the schedule change and all of the implementing that kind of structure and the impact that it would have on our game, a lot of confusion there. A lot of people just don't get it. I'm going to get into a couple of people who responded, and I'm going to try and help them, or at least guide them to understand that, hey, smarter people than me have done the numbers and figured out that all the mistakes of all those years and the geographical constraints and circumstances that we have, they all factor in. But there is no yes and no to this. There is a lot of gray, but there is a solution that will be extremely beneficial to our soccer nation if we figure that out. What I've also been enlightened is that most of the people who call themselves supporters and or fans of sports in the United States, and we've always been told, oh, we got this great mentality towards winning. That's what the rest of the world believes. Rest of the world, you're wrong. We don't. We just love to be entertained. That's it. I mean, I look at it like if this were the party that you were trying to get into, right? This is the party of your industry. Every power broker in your industry is inside those doors at that party. And that's where you want to be, right? You want to rub shoulders with these people and talk to them because you want your business to get better. You want to create. That's not who we are, unfortunately. All you people want to be is in the room. You want to go in and you want to grab your glass of champagne and wait for the hors d'oeuvre guy and watch the party happen and say, ooh, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so. And yep, there they are. And I'm here. I'm important. You're important, I guess, but you're certainly not getting any better. The last one was equality for the men's and women's national teams. So that's the 5, if you've been paying attention. That was important because I played for the national team. I understand how this all works, and it certainly isn't your only paycheck. So making it equal pay, making it understand, because some of that stuff doesn't add up. I get it. The Women's World Cup doesn't garner the kind of sponsors that the Men's World Cup does, and that is the kitty that we've been tapping into. And kudos to the boys, man, because they actually, am I allowed to say that? Do I have to say men, or is somebody going to get offended? That's okay. Be offended. I don't care. The boys have actually done a pretty good job of kicking some money back because of the sponsors that exist and making this a much more feasible option for our athletes and to entertain the idea of equal pay. I had a lot of solutions there. I'm not going to get into the weeds, but they essentially did that one first, which isn't surprising. I don't think it was my idea, but we do have a woman who is the president of U.S. Soccer, and I think that she put that at the top of the agenda. It was the easiest thing to actually push through. So thank you, Cindy Cohen.
Yeah, I mean, that he's not wrong. That is the absolute easiest thing to have gotten done. You're not going to, he's talked a lot of stuff, and we've gone at some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. Like the schedule change, I don't agree with. The salary cap, I'm sure he and I see eye to eye on the salary cap. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, but yeah, equal pay, especially having, we don't win just by default anymore, but it is true that we have the best women's program in the world. The rest of the world is catching up. And we don't win just by default anymore, but we have the best women's program in the world. So yeah, that was the easiest thing to get off the list. But what would you tackle next?
Was a very good idea, regardless of whose it was. And it's going to it's going to have a great impact on how our national team works and just the overall understanding. But make no bones about it. The women are better than us. They've always been better than us. And they will continue to be better than us until we decide to figure things out and get better, as I said before, a couple times already, as a soccer nation. Now, the schedule. Here we go. Boy, you people have really got a hard time with this. You really don't understand it. We're going to draw some lines for you, all right, at latitude, longitude, and all that stuff, to let you know that we understand that it gets colder in New England than it does in Miami. Yeah, we understand that's factual. I don't think anybody's trying to refute that. But what we are saying is that it is possible to have a league that exists and is on the timelines as everybody else. Now, here's the reminder, okay? This is the part that I think you need to understand. At the origin of this league, in its inception, for that matter, We try to do things a little differently. So when we come back and we say we need to get back on the calendar, we need to get on the calendar, this isn't a novel idea. The novel idea happened in 1996 when a bunch of football guys said, how does this work for us? If we give you some money,
Football.
this,
Well,
we're not going to start at the same time.
Hold on, pause this. It's ridiculous to not acknowledge the fact that despite it being so incredibly boring, football is by and large the most popular sport in this country. And let's not pretend that the most successful some of the more successful MLS teams share their state. Like back in the day, MLS teams shared their stadium with NFL teams because they just had nothing. They had nothing.
And the NFL teams needed to get that extra dough.
Well, and now Seattle is in that stadium because they can pack that stadium. Like there's a reason they're in the football stadium. Why build, it's my argument here in Chicago. Why build a small ass stadium when you can fill the big one? But same thing with Atlanta. But, I think it is smart to avoid the NFL for as much as you can. It just is. And like,
we give you
I don't know, man.
money.
I would love. The one thing we need to do the research. We need to go back to 2020, like do the 2024 to 25 or do 23 to 24 season and see if the Chicago Fire would have ever played a game above 50 degrees. Just because I'm pretty sure going by just the months and me remembering the games, we wouldn't have had a game over 50 degrees.
This, we're not going to start at the same time. We're not doing that. What, you want to start in August? No way. Okay, let's do it differently. And that's what happened. Lamar Hunt, love you to death. The Clark Hunt and the family. Dan as well. The Crafts. At the inception of all of this was all about a league that was going to be controlled by the NFL. They certainly didn't want us being any kind of adversary. This was a kumbaya idea that we were all going to work together. And to be fair, this was a bunch of NFL owners at that time that wanted their NFL stadiums occupied so that they could make money. And that was one of the things that was really near and dear to them. Now, we're at a stage now where some could say that the league has grown leaps and bounds. We are in our own stadiums for the most part. There's only a few places that are still sharing with other organizations and or sports. And the truth is that we're ready. We're ready to engage in the true business of football, soccer. Up until this point, it's really been problematic. Ask any GM who will be honest with you, and say how's that going for you when you have to when you get interest of a player that's actually doing fairly well. It wants to go to Europe and no longer wants to be a part of Major League Soccer, and they want to move in June and July. And then you don't have the mechanisms in place. Your coach and your GM certainly don't have the ability to move things around. And find a player that fast in the middle of the season. And
well, if you didn't have a salary cap, they would.
You might lose some games, or there's no continuity, and it just looks a little bit off. And anybody that's been a part of this league for as long as I have, you understand that it really does matter to start getting your act together around July and August if you're going to make a playoff push. Now, the schedule itself and the way that it and the timing of everything needs to be what they just recently discussed. Apparently, and I've done a previous podcast on this, an independent group called Sportico decided to independently interview 29 of the participants in Major League Soccer and ask them if they would be in favor of a schedule change. And it was a super majority. It was actually 93% believe that would be in the best interest of the sport. Now,
93% agreed, but they also delayed it.
For those of you who are struggling with this, these are really smart people who have done the same work that we did 8 years ago to figure out that it is a necessary component of growth of the sport. Now, here's the current situation, and this is what you're struggling with. We start in bad weather, we finish in horrible weather, and we have nobody watching. That's it, in a nutshell.
That's the reality that the MLS is currently facing right now.
Growth.
I mean, honestly, though, I don't know if I'd have tickets with a winter schedule, man. This shit sucks enough. It's hard enough to get her to go when it rains.
Now, here's the current situation, and this is what you're struggling with. We start in bad weather, we finish in horrible weather, and we have nobody watching. That's it, in a nutshell. We start at a time that made sense a long time ago to the NFL owners because they were just finishing up their football season in February, because that's when everything is all about the Super Bowl. And then it's over. Can we start then? Well, let's just start right there in March, and that's what we've been doing. Unfortunately, we've been ending our season in December.
Bombshell.
We're up against college football, which is a monster. And everything that is happening right now in college football, with all the attention it's getting, with all of the compelling television that they are able to create, a lot of controversies,
Hold on,
a lot
pause
of
it.
reasons.
A lot of NIL money, a lot of money.
I'm not trying to be an asshole. Is he telling the truth? I haven't heard a single human being who talks about other sports to me talk about college football once.
College football's huge. So college football
I haven't heard nothing.
Yeah. College football has gotten totally changed, and it was by the TV networks. Basically, they create college football has moved from an NCAA style of college football towards an NFL style college football, where basically there's two power conferences, like it's the SEC and the Big Ten, and everybody else is just like, you get lucky, you might get lucky. And they've tried to really make it more NFL-like. And on top of that, they've been having standout numbers, and they beat MLS year over year over year in every metric.
To watch.
Well,
More people are watching college football than ever before. The NFL, still a monster. It's still something that occupies all of our televisions on a Sunday, and nothing is really going to change. And that starts, as we all know, in September and finishes up with the Super Bowl. And pretty much everybody is locked in on that in the United States. That's just the way it is. This other thing, I don't know if you've ever seen it, the World Series, even though it's really not the World Series. Baseball at its best. It's now going. It used to be Mr. October, right? It's actually Mr. November, because they have changed their playoff system. They have more properties. They have more content to sell to the networks, and they end up finishing this thing well into November. We almost get to Thanksgiving with that stuff. What does that equate to? Nobody watching soccer. Well, not nobody, but just the diehards.
And you think it's better, Toke? It's shocking. He's going to tell you the numbers. Just wait.
If I do the
But
numbers
wait a second.
for you,
Do you? It just sounds like it doesn't matter, because what the argument's going to be, you're going to play like. So you're playing during the NFL season? He's just he already told you that you suck.
Yeah, but you finished not during the NFL season.
During March Madness. Dope.
You finish.
Like
I would think you
finished
finished closer to May.
Around.
Closer to May after March Madness. But listen,
to Thanksgiving with that stuff. What does that equate?
You bring up good points, though. By the way.
To nobody watching soccer. Well, not nobody, but just the diehards. If I do the numbers for you, and I said, all right, 1996, how many people were watching an MLS game, in the weekly game? We used to put one on TV. We'd put it on the ABC, ESPN platform, and about 151 to 160,000 people would watch on a good day. On a good day. Do the numbers last week.
This is true. I remember reading the newspapers constantly, checking those numbers. For Chicago Fire specifically.
Same. Exactly the same. Nothing has changed at all in the viewership.
So back in 96, 97, 98, they're hitting 150K. 2024, 2025, they're hitting 150K. No
okay, so
growth
but hold on
TV.
though. Question though. So like, how much growth is there to be had then? Because the stadiums, like most of these stadiums,
you're asking about
full.
growth. Well, I'll tell you this: the NWSL puts up better numbers than the MLS sometimes, and USL this season has put up better numbers than the MLS.
Yeah, well, I mean,
better numbers than the MLS. USL is putting up better numbers than the MLS over the air TV, even though both have gotten games shown on the over-the-air TV. Nobody cares about MLS. MLS doesn't matter. But let's get into it a little bit more.
Same. Exactly the same. Nothing has changed at all in the viewership of when people watch soccer. And the Apple deal, which is falling apart, unfortunately, it seemingly was a good idea, but don't be naive. Don't for 1 second think that this wasn't the same guys that started our fucking league that are trying to figure out if this is going to work for the NFL.
And you said this last podcast. You said that last podcast, Toke.
I've been saying that since the minute the deal's been signed.
You
we're always like, and I don't know, that's necessarily a bad thing to be in that position. You know, like you have different, all of the sports leagues in America have been implementing new rules and doing goofy shit in the last couple of years to try and drive more attention. I mean, I don't know, man. It seems to me, and I guess maybe it's my I'm caring less and less about the national team, that like this is all a lot to do about nothing. And really, I still stand by the true fix is the salary cap. You get rid of the salary cap, guess what? You can sign any player you want. Who gives a shit when it is during the year? You know, people are going to watch the best players of the year in the world play whenever the hell they play. So like all this other minutia and bullshit that we spend so much time arguing about isn't really the answer.
They're trying to figure out if this is going to work for the NFL. I don't know if you like being a lab rat, but that's what we are when it comes to the bigger sports. The only way that we can change that is for us to change the schedule, to stop starting our season in horrible weather and finishing it in a crapshoot at best. I mean, it depends on where we finish. We don't have a signature Super Bowl. We don't get to say, oh, we're going to San Diego. We'll get good weather there. Or we're going to Vegas. We're going to LA. And then 2 teams from somewhere else. And it's such a monster. It doesn't matter. The Philly fans and Pittsburgh fans. Well, Pittsburgh hasn't been in the Super Bowl for a long time, right? It's been about 20 years. But you get my point. Those fan bases will go to wherever it is because it is the pinnacle of all sports to go to a Super Bowl. And it needs to be in a warm climate. So it finds itself in California, Texas, or Florida, whatever. You get it. And that's the way we do things. Now, when you look at our sport, we've never been able to create a signature final that allows our sponsors, we can get them first. Before they dump all their money into the other sports, we actually get first bite at the apple. So all of the people, that was actually no pun intended, but you actually get the opportunity to sit in front of the people who are going to spend money on sports and actually create a scenario where you can actually with a straight face say, this is compelling television. Look at the stories that we've created. Look who's in this competition, and people will gravitate to that. Now, look, the season would probably end in...
I'm feeling like a fucking crazy person, man. Apparently I like shit no one else likes. We did the neutral site. It sucked. The Super Bowl sucks. Isn't like the conference finals a better game because it has a home atmosphere?
There is some degree where I agree with you on that because MLS yes, those conference final games are huge, and then you do move to a quote unquote neutral site, and it's not that the game loses its magic, but the game becomes almost artificial for the Super Bowl, where everything before that feels so real. And I love football. I love the Super Bowl. I love the games before. I love the playoffs. I love the regular season. I love all of it. I'm a big football fan. But when it comes to, like you just said, those conference finals, there's some sort of grittiness there that is not there for the Super Bowl. It's so clean. It's so sterile in a way, even though magic happens all the time. It's always entertaining.
The atmosphere is more of a circus than it is like,
yes,
when you get the home game, like these MLS Cups in the stadium, like it's so, I just enjoy it, man. I've enjoyed watching them. I just don't get it. I mean, part of me, like I've been a huge supporter of MLS playoffs, and just honestly, I'm starting to feel like, man, let's just get rid of them and do you were the best team all season. The Supporters Cup, the Supporters Shield is now
make every game matter. And make every game matter. That would help. If you don't do promotion relegation,
or do like a pennant.
That makes every game, every scheduled season game, a tournament game, just like the EPL.
I would like it better, since we have so many damn teams, to have an East and a West champion, and that be a huge deal. And then maybe we do the one neutral site game between the two, maybe. But like, honestly, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just still believe it's the money. Because the NFL could switch their schedule and be just fine. You know why? Because it's the best place for football. That is the best players in the world. If you get the best players in the world, people will watch. Rules won't even matter. You know, it's like hilarious. I want to shout this out real quick. On a recent episode of Total Soccer Show, dude, what's his name? Graham, the guy from Scotland, says that they routinely have like owners meetings about like, should we move schedules to like the summer schedule? Anyway.
In June. Now, anybody else who also understands this sport as a GM, and I'm talking to you now, you know how hard it is to even get your season ticket holders to show up over the summer. It's either one of two things. It's too hot or they're doing something else. They have lives. They go on vacations. They don't always look at soccer as a treat, especially when it gets so humid and hot in July. So why don't we avoid that? Why don't we end our season in May? Now, what else happens in those months? Everybody wants to come over here. All of the big dogs, right?
By the way, if you're in May, then you're going against NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs. So that's another
opening
problem.
Day.
And opening
baseball
teams. Opening day already happened.
Happens in those months. Everybody wants to come over here. All of the big dogs, right? You've got the Italian teams, the Spanish teams, the Real Madrids. They train at UCLA, by the way, in case you didn't know that. That's usually where they come out to do their preseason. And then they do a bunch of exhibition matches across the country to do what? To build their brand. Now, what if we are able to actually take part in that? In our stadiums, to partner with these entities who want to come and play against them. That's probably the single best way for you ever to garner interest from somebody who's maybe even coming to their first ever game. Columbus, you have an amazing stadium. Why don't you do some invites and do an international friendly when you're not in the middle of the season? Treat it as a preseason game for yourself. Have the audacity to think that you might be able to play with them, even though you're right in the middle of your preseason and you're getting guys healthy and back on the field. But you're going to have a very captive audience who are being exposed maybe to soccer.
And this won't work in the current schedule, but it would work if they moved to a European schedule.
Or high-level soccer.
When they were doing those preseason or the friendlies in the middle of the season, that I know you didn't you go to the Manchester United game?
Manchester United versus who?
The Fire.
No.
At Soldier Field.
No.
Oh, you didn't go?
No, I went to Manchester United versus Bayern Munich way back in the day. Many years ago. But I mean, I actually kind of don't care about glorified friendlies at all. Like they just didn't do it for me.
Not at all. It was so annoying in the middle of the season because inevitably a guy would get hurt or something stupid would happen.
Now,
it's
if
like
it was preseason, if we're talking like, August, like they're getting ready to play and all of a sudden Tottenham comes over to play, that might get people.
I mean, if we're if we switch schedules, then yes, I'm all for it. Bring them over, play against the big boys all the time. But and don't do it during the season. I mean, I hate that we do the All-Star game the way we do it too. The best All-Star game is when you do Liga MX Best 11 versus MLS Best 11. Anyway, I'm sorry.
A very captive audience who are being exposed maybe to soccer, high-level soccer for the first time. There's your marketing plan. That's it. And people will want to come. Hey, that wasn't bad. I really enjoyed that. Maybe I'll be a season ticket holder. Maybe I'll show up. When does the season start? Oh, it starts late August, early September, or August. Who knows? We don't have this all chiseled in stone at this point, but that's a better starting point. Now, for those of you who are worried about playing in bad weather, you're fucking doing it anyway. I don't know what your problem is. I mean, it's like we only have one game that happens in December, but the realities of playing a schedule where everybody plays everybody, which is actually, to me, a very vital component of this, that you can build this thing to make sure that, okay, you maybe had to play 3 away games in a row. I get it. You're going to travel there anyway. at some point. Maybe you save money and you stay down there for a little bit. Maybe you do the Orlando, Miami, Atlanta swing. And those are the
The Chicago Blackhawks circus tour.
first 3 games of your season. We have enough markets in this league now that the weather...
That's a real thing. Every time the circus comes to town for Chicago, like the Bulls and the Blackhawks both got to have long traveling schedules.
It's always the first month of the season too, man.
Yeah, it's always early.
Because it can knock the Bulls, like, because, you know, it could knock either team out of contention immediately. Just like get off to such a bad
season. Yeah,
such a bad start, you know? Anyway.
Atlanta swing. And those are the first 3 games of your season. We have enough markets in this league now that the weather is going to cooperate. When it's cold, you're going to be fine. I get it, Minnesota. I get it, Toronto. I get it, New England,
Chicago,
New York, even DC. I don't want you to play in February either, but there's a couple of advantages there. February is probably the shortest. It is the shortest month in our calendar. We probably have a couple of games in there just coming out of the break.
Confirming February is the shortest month of the calendar.
Yeah, confirmed. Right. Now, you know, the point isn't that it gets cold, because he's right. There are cold games now. But like the thing is, like in Chicago, like I said, just going by the months people are talking about, we wouldn't have had a single warm game. It's not about avoiding cold games, because we still have them. It's about avoiding every fucking game being cold. I'd like to wear a t-shirt one time.
Calendar. We probably have a couple of games in there just coming out of the break. But the most important part is you will be able to finish this season in a window that works, not just for us and the weather, but the networks. You're going up against the indoor sports, right? Hockey and basketball. If you don't think we can't beat them, then you've got some sort of inferiority complex, but because we can. That's where we are. And we would have the ability to not only build into our schedule the end of the Open Cup, which is such a problem for everybody. Why? Because of the fucking calendar. They're trying to figure out where they're going to go. They have a lot of GMs that are against it. So you've got MLS balking on this every single year, saying we don't want to take part in that. I've argued the point that they're just afraid to get beat by a lower division team. But the truth is they do have some logistic problematic issues there. And those could all be overcome with the change of the schedule.
Agreed.
I don't know about you, but I'm tired of watching these poor saps in their 5 layers of clothes and some gloves holding on to a hot chocolate trying to watch an MLS Cup final. As a player, I certainly don't want my legacy determined on whether or not I slipped because it's cold and I don't have the appropriate gear to play on ice. Look,
I mean, this is a point because, like, the MLS finals are played in cold, and it sucks.
Football loves that shit. They love it. They say, well, what's the problem? This is what happens when you have NFL people saying, well, what's the problem playing it? Okay, our ball is round and it's on the ground the whole time. It's not being thrown or handed off to somebody. And our games are very, they're longer, right? And there's a lot more going on. And there's actually, when you look at a 90-minute game, the ball is in play 80 minutes of the time. This isn't football, a 60-minute game where there's actually 9 to 10 minutes of actual play. You got a lot of time to go find a blanket in that shit. We don't have that option for soccer, okay? We don't. So all these people who thought, oh, what's the problem? The problem is that kind of weather isn't conducive to a final. You don't want to have another situation where we're going to Kansas City. God bless you guys, but man, that was cold. Toronto was even worse. So one of the most horrific injuries in the history of our league when they decided that they had to reward Toronto to get the final, and it was a punishment to anybody that watched it or sat in the stands. That's got to end.
Say his name. Say Matt Conji, man. Come on.
I can sell that. I can sell that to anybody that wants to come in June. In Colorado, let's say, take your shirt off and have a couple beers and enjoy the game.
What were you saying, Toke? What were you just saying a few minutes ago?
It's a final. That's the feel of a World Cup.
You want to be able to wear a t-shirt.
That's why people love it so much. It's an exhibition to a certain extent with some real stake in there. There's some real skin in the game for some of these countries, and it's a great, great exhibition. Not exhibition, but it's a great competition which shows us the best in the world fighting it out for one thing, and that is to be world champion. I want to make one more point, and this is the part of the show where we're going to integrate a new word or introduce a new word. You've heard of monopoly. How about oligopoly? There it is.
I've also heard of that.
Oligopoly. That's what it means. Read it, because that's
A market structure with a small number of firms, none of which can keep the others from having significant influence.
what's happening. Now, in our sports, I should say, what we have created is the end-all be-all of sports in the United States. We tell people that we're world champions. We tell people that these are the best baseball players on the planet battling it out. It's actually not true. Every time you do that world competition, we come in third or fourth. I think the Koreans, Netherlands is pretty good, but we're certainly going to get beat by Japan and the Dominican Republic. But
Netherlands are good at baseball?
In baseball.
the point
Hell yeah.
is that we've created this corporate world where we have, the narrative is that the best of the best all play the sport in the United States, whether it be the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, or the NFL. All of these sports is the pinnacle of your career. If you go there, it doesn't get any better than that, which is a narrative that we've created over time by monopolizing the sport. And that's not something that we should really frown upon. It's happening everywhere. It's in the United States. It's kind of the way we do things, if you think about it. I like that movie, You Got Mail. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but Meg Ryan has this little cool
Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan.
little bookstore. And then Tom Hanks and the big corporate world, piles in, puts her out of business. And we just accept that. You just get eaten up by the blob when it arrives. And that's the way we handle sports. We don't actually engage in competition. We run from it. We basically create the narrative that we're the best. And in order to be the best, you have to play here. We'll never have that option in soccer or football. We'll never have the ability to say that this is the best league in the world. If you are thinking that way, you need to change the way you think. You are delusional. There's too many factors here. And whether it's the Spanish, the Germans, the Italians, the English, it doesn't matter. The sport will always be about competition. And the competition of who's the best club in the world, we try to settle that through the World Club Cup. But the truth is, it really is about perception of reality and a constant competition that happens everywhere in all these different countries. And all of those countries that I'm talking about are doing one thing that we are not, trying to be a better soccer nation.
The USA is not trying that hard.
Trying to be a better footballing nation is what I was trying to say. We are simply trying to facilitate soccer. We have married ourselves to mediocrity. We are not engaging in real competition or a league that is all about sporting merit. The winner is actually going to be a culmination of the organization getting everything right, almost everything right. Nobody's perfect, but it will take a whole lot of the luck out of this. And we can't hang our hat on luck anymore. I get it that we think that we're doing so well with all these teams and these stadiums, but the soccer isn't there yet. And there's a way to fix that. Fix the schedule. At some point, implement promotion and relegation, and you will see for the first time real football. I guess the point I need to make with the USL, and I've got receipts on this as well. I've actually submitted my presentation to them 8 years ago. Here we go again, right? Me being bitter about, I don't care. They're actually trying to do the right thing. They're trying to implement a league and fight for Division I status and have it settled on sporting merit. They're having a lot of tripwire. They have not figured out the television component yet. They still are not on board with changing the schedule, which will be a learning process for a bunch of people who are doing this for the first time and basically replicating or duplicating exactly what Major League Soccer did many years ago when it took them 30 years to figure out that they needed to change the model in order to change their fortune. All right, that is it for today.
So do you ever think USL will get league or Division I status with the USSF?
USL already has it. They already have it. That's already a thing. They already secured that. That was what was announced. That they've had that for a while now. You could look this up, and that's why USL came out and announced what they did about promotion relegation. several weeks to a month or so ago.
So we're gonna do the thing again where we have multiple leagues in the same tier, huh? It's supposedly. Yay.
I think that Eric lays out an excellent argument about why why MLS, why U.S. Soccer Federation, they need to start seeing the bigger picture. They're focused on the bottom lines, and the bottom lines suck. And if they focus on the bigger picture, their bottom lines will raise as a byproduct. I agree with him, but you brought up some various points like, oh, so you want to go against NBA? Oh, you want to go against NHL? Well, yes, yes, I mean, because you can't go against the big dog of NFL.
Well, I mean, you would be though. You know what I mean? You'd be playing right through their schedule. That's the thing is I mean, it'd be the beginning part of the year, but again, don't we want it's just I don't know, man. I feel like we're tackling the wrong problems first.
I think promotion relegation solves a lot of those problems. I don't think the money is the problem. I think the competition aspect is the problem. It's the fact that these games don't matter. The games don't matter.
Do you have any idea if we do promotion relegation with like some salary cap kind of model, the sea of Tom Barlows that'll be just everywhere, a Tom Barlow. That'll be the level, like, it'll just be, like, you talk about mediocrity now. Jesus Christ.
I don't think so. I think that the Tom Barlows will sink. That's the point of promotion relegation. That if you sign the Tom Barlows over the Christian Ramirez's, you sink because you've made the poor business decision.
Oh boy! So Jaymes, what did you call this very special episode?
MLS fans, soccer fans, you got to see this or something like that, or MLS fans must
beautiful
something like that. I don't know, because in my opinion, you got to see what Eric is talking about, because I feel like this guy should have been the president of the U.S. Soccer Federation. They made a mistake by not making this man the president and letting him enact his plan and to move soccer forward, because I got to say, I feel like he's got a great idea here. Now, well, I've heard the competing theories. I've heard the Carlos Corderos. I've heard the Cindy Cones. I've heard the what's the former U.S. men's national team coach from Germany. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Oh, what's his face?
Jurgen Klinsmann. On his, like, I've heard it, and while you've poked a few good holes in Eric's argument, I feel like his is the most sound. His is the most best plan, because you as an MLS team, you as a GM, MLS GM, boom, it's coming around to playoff time, and all of a sudden you're losing your best players in May, June, July, and then
no, you're not, because if you don't have a salary cap, you're signing somebody as good.
That's not true. That's not true. You're wrong. You just think like, oh, because they, the anti-capitalist is like, no, believe me, the capitalist money will be there. Come on, dude, get real. It's not like that, dude. It doesn't work that way.
Arthur Blank is peeling his skin off, waiting to be able to spend more money on his team.
He's not going to see peeling flesh anytime soon. All right.
Dude, listen, I'll say this. Much like most of the world, I feel as though the answer of status quo and burn it all down, there's got to be something of like change. Somewhere
burn it all down. The Phoenix, the Phoenix that burns and it becomes something anew. Guys, thanks for hanging out for this little reaction to Eric Wynalda's 5-point plan to save U.S. soccer on Goals TV on YouTube. Make sure you guys kick that like button, subscribe for more Enemies of the Fire, comment below, let us know what you guys disagree with or what you agree with. Go send Goals TV some love, go send some Eric Wynalda some love. Just want to bring this up because I thought it was a great conversation that Eric wants to have, and him talking about some of the things that he was, especially saying, hey, there's a reason we follow the Super Bowl. Hey, there's a reason. It plays into a lot of the conspiracy theories that have been out there for a long time, because they're not conspiracy theories. They're truth, and they're truth that has put MLS into a quagmire, and that quagmire is becoming very, very hard to bring themselves out of the muck. All right. I want to see a never ending story here for MLS. All right, guys, I want to see you guys next time. Guys, kick that like button. We'll see you guys next time here on Enemies of the Fire. Thanks for Toke for hopping on. We'll be right back with more. That's right.